Hey, welcome to this week's episode of the Slow Learner podcast. This week we've got an amazing comic and friend of mine who I've worked with many times and known over the years, Arj Barker, who is joining us all the way from Australia. You won't notice it probably on the recording because, hey, that's modern technology. But this is our second week where Dr. Paul is going to join us while we're doing the actual podcast and don't have to add the interview afterwards. But it's a great and relaxed and loose podcast this week. We have a little bit of fun. Arj is very dry, very funny. Uh, if you watch the video portion of it, you'll notice that he's pretty deadpan and expressive. But Arj is one of my favorite comics. And if you're Australian, you probably already have heard of him because he's super famous down there. We touch on a few things this week, so I want to just give a little trigger warning when we talk about, we might mention corpses in sort of the context of Buddhist meditation. And we sort of discuss in a humorous way a couple of sort of non-scientific concepts. We do try to keep intellectual rigor to the high here and maintain academic accuracy, but we were just sort of jokingly engaging in some topics there. So don't hold us too strict to it. Also, as always, if you enjoy the show, we'd love to hear from you. Our email is theslowlearnerpodcast@gmail.com. Drop us a line if you like it. Give us a thumbs up, a like, a couple of stars, some feedback. We really appreciate it. We got some amazing feedback from last episode, and we'd like to keep it coming because we're really enjoying doing this and we'd love to build a fan base. So now, without further ado, episode 4 with Arj Barker of the Slow Learner Podcast.
Okay, so let's get into it.
Okay, let's go.
I'm just gonna roll. I'm just gonna go with whatever. So don't worry. You don't have to explain too much. I was just curious. Now I'm happy to go with whatever.
Okay. Well, we're very strict and formatted, so don't deviate in any way.
Yeah, Pete is known for structure and following the rules to the letter.
All right. I've got a vocal zone in, so if that's really irritating to anybody, let me know because I don't want it to be too noticeable. But hey, welcome to the Slow Learner Podcast. We've got Arj here fixing his headset. Arj Barker, the amazing comedian, one of my favorites from a very young age. I was a fan before we were friends. That's rare to say. And I didn't seek you out necessarily because I was a fan, but I was pleasantly surprised.
Oh, you didn't seek me out because we ended up just living in the same apartment in London randomly. That's when I first met you.
Yeah, oh, that's right. I totally forgot about that with Mike Wilmot.
Jez's apartment.
Oh my God! For some reason, I totally blanked that trip out. For some reason, I was really sick during that trip too. I was like sick the last 2 weeks. I remember being stuck in the bedroom.
It always seems like whenever I talk to you, you're either just becoming ill or just getting better. There's never like, oh, it's been great. Life's been fantastic. You know.
Yeah, I guess comedy doesn't help with immune response. That's a correlation that I'm going to make a deduction on. And also joining us again is our co-host for the comedy season, possibly the next one, depending on how successful this is. I mean, he's always looking for rosier gardens. But Professor Paul Whissell, neuroscientist at our rigor specialist here. He's going to keep us to the science and sort of help guide us so that we don't say idiotic things like I often do, like amygdala when I mean hypothalamus. Welcome, Paul. It's reading week. Are you enjoying yourself?
I actually have a lot of preparation for a talk I have to give tomorrow, like tomorrow morning. So that's been fun. It's been also great shoveling snow here.
Right.
Like nonstop snowstorms, quite literally. I'm not joking. 4 times, 2 days. 4 times 2 days just to clear the driveway enough so you could get out. You know, it's not like we have anywhere to go to. The last time, I still remember this, it was like they had the snowstorm. I'm like, oh my God, my kid's not going to get to school. So I woke up at 6 to clear the whole thing, and they canceled school that day. And I was just like, total waste of time, yeah. But anyways,
an easy cure for that, Paul, is to be poor. Poor people don't have driveways. That's a way to deal with lots of snow, I've found. Arj, you are on the opposite sides of the seasonal spectrum. You're in midsummer right now in Australia, in Melbourne, right?
I think we're past mid. I think we're, judging by the weather anyway, we're rapidly coming to the end of summer. But yeah, supposedly there's a few more weeks. But it's already gotten kind of chilly. But yeah, I'm at Melbourne at a friend's house. And
I can't get the camera. What's the friend's house? Girlfriends. Oh, I put it together. Okay. No? What? Okay. All right. I didn't mean.
Just a friend's house.
Friend's house. Gotcha. Okay, well, congratulations on air quotes, friend. That's pretty awesome.
But I spent a hell of a lot of time down here, as you might know, and it's pretty good. Yeah.
Well, one of the reasons I was excited to have you on the show is that some of the subtle things that you do in your comedy act are reminiscent of a spectrum of sort of psychological cognitive science ideas. And one of my favorite sort of intros to a comedy show, most comics have an opener that goes up in struggle that they sort of select so that they can easily dominate over them and like, oh, hey guys, the real act's on. But the last video or special of yours I saw, you played a video of yourself pretending to be sort of a meditative guide. Helping people sort of transition and train their thoughts. Now, I know this is from like 2009, a long time ago, but it's sort of representative of the sort of approach that you take to comedy that does intersect with common neuroscience ideas. And you're basically sort of trying to put the audience in the right frame of mind for comedy. Is this something like that you consciously sort of engage in, designing sort of like an environment that makes it easier to sort of like do your comedy, or is this something that you just stumbled upon?
A couple of things. I would have had an opener that night. Probably my friend Joel. I can't remember, but that was just an idea that I thought would be funny, and I thought, wow, it'd be amazing to get some decent laughs before I even took the stage, which was nice because that video used to. And I'm happy for you to source it and play it if you want.
Okay, cool.
You're more than welcome to. But
I highly doubt YouTube will let me do that, even if you say it verbally.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, because they'll do an audio scan and go nope, and then block the entire video. But I'll read it out loud to people. I could do that.
It was basically like,
well, I think it'll lose just a bit of the magic. But
yeah, the idea was to have the audience meditate. Get prepared for the comedy show, and some affirmations, which were like, I think jokes are funnier when someone yells, just like stuff that I was obviously referencing my own style. And one towards the end, I was like, and now just the ladies on this one, let's get rid of these negative thoughts. I would never fuck a comedian. Let's get rid of that. Stuff. I can't remember how it goes. And then all the men, I would never let my girlfriend fuck a comedian or something. So, but it's an old running theme of mine that I'm always just trying to get laid in my shows, which isn't the most original thing or anything. But I've always thought with comedy that it's not so much you're going to have an original subject. It's just you find a new way to present it. A subject's like a point in space, and average comedians will intersect it from a similar angle. But if you can find a new way to go, to intersect it, then that's why. Because there's no new subjects really under the sun. So anyway, that's one of my beliefs about comedy. Not to stress about I would say there's no hacky subjects, only hacky ways of approaching them.
I agree. And actually, you've been kind of an inspiration for that. Can I ask you a question? Do you actually meditate?
Yeah, I was very curious about that. I don't know if Pete's going to tell you why, but yeah.
I do meditate, but not. I don't have the strongest practice in the world, but I try to meditate every day.
Really?
Usually, ideally 20 minutes, and I just do breath focus, or mainly breath. But I've been reading about some other ones. Do you know I read about one in Buddhism which I'm interested in. I've read various things about Buddhism over the years, but I just saw this the other day. There's one, it's about not being attached to your body and to your physical body, and not being, shallow, basically. That's how I read it. Not getting obsessed with your own physical, beauty. And so what they recommend in this one is, you meditate, you focus on a dead body. It didn't specifically say your own, but you focus on a corpse, and you focus on all the stages of the corpse basically rotting. So it's like bloated, turning black, pussy, and it was very graphic. And I just thought, that's pretty metal. You know what I mean? Like that's a pretty metal meditation.
Yeah.
But I haven't done that one, but I thought it was interesting.
That's definitely a real one. Because I remember I'm not near, but one of my professors of cognitive science was talking about that specific sort of focus on death in that release. But luckily, Paul taught one of our courses on Buddhism and
so this is an interesting thing about the university that I work at, is that they have a whole program, or they did, on Buddhism, psychology, and mental health all together. It's one of the few of its kind, certainly in North America at least. And so you have courses that are about like what meditation is, the pedagogy, the history, the philosophy, like the ideas it has that and how they apply in psychology. There are actual courses on these things. People will get a minor degree in this type of thing. And the one I do is I do the course looking at meditation in the treatment of mental health. So this is why I love that Pete shared this with me, because, I've never heard a comedian do meditation jokes before, and having familiarity with it from studying it, I love all of this, because it's just like the idea of trying to do it quickly. I think specifically the last one I saw was like, it was a 40-minute session, but I did it in 10. And this is just like totally antithetical to, like, that's why it's hilarious, of course. It's totally antithetical to the point of it. But it's not something that was well covered. And you were actually really ahead of the game on this, because it became hugely popular later. And I'm looking at when you did all this work, it was right before it took off. So that was like early on.
That's lucky.
Yeah, well, is pretty cool.
But I was because anything that I'm doing that I'm interested in real life, like this would be pretty normal, I guess. But it tends to bleed into my act eventually. So I was sort of interested in meditation, and also where I grew up and spent a lot of time in Northern California, I was around people who were spiritual, but I saw that sort of phony side of it, like the real kind of like their spirituality was like their identity, rather than just like that's what made them unique. Like, I'm so spiritual, I meditate,
Yeah.
I'm gonna hug you I gotta hug my friend for 10 minutes,
I've always, I was gonna say, sorry, go ahead. I'm interrupting.
I think it might be called spiritual materialism, but I'm not sure. But anyway, so I was responding to that too, because I was like, there's some fucking phony shit going on around here. And so those jokes are really about a guy who's like, yeah, I'm going to be so spiritual, but again, just using it to try to get laid. One video that one thing I made, which I'm pretty proud of, it was called The Sickest Buddhist, and it's a rap. It's about a Buddhist guy rapping how spiritual he is. And that's on YouTube. It's worth having a look. That opens with that meditation gag, but then it's all lyrics about how spiritual he is. He's like, I focus on, I can't remember the lyrics. He goes, I'm the sickest Buddhist you've ever seen. All the ladies want to meditate with me. It's so dope when I focus on my breath, because I floss all day and I chew Big Red. So he's like focusing on his breath. He thinks it means having good breath. And there's a lot of jokes in that one.
I love the explanation at the end. Oh my God. And the Big Red reference, I do miss that. Yeah. The gum used to have they had really campy commercials. I remember that. What was the other one?
Is that Kiss a Little Longer? Is that Big Red? Kiss a Little Longer.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah. And then AIDS
Juicy Fruit is the one I remember. That was like a big thing where we were in Canada.
That was like soft porn, the Juicy Fruit commercials, wasn't it?
A lot of them were, but as intolerable as that may be, I think I have even more distaste for the Mentos ads that made no sense. They made no attempt to have narrative. It was just ridiculous. But it's fun, but it was just like, what is this about? Like, what was the pitch meeting for that? Who signed off on that?
Well, it has the effect because you always remember it in a way.
I guess that's true. Yeah.
It's incongruous.
Even if I don't want to, I'm haunted by Mentos years later. I don't even know if it's still available.
Those were European. I believe those were European commercials, and so they never would have anyone speaking. And that also made them a little weird, because we were used to people going, hey, I love this Mentos, you should try it. But it was just like, it's just guys like all these, really European
Yeah,
looking
they were
folks.
silent. Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah, because they're European ads.
It was the Mr. Bean of commercials. Yeah, it could play any market.
What was the other thing too? Like right before like the death of TV, you know, ads basically now are all on YouTube, and they're all like, it's such a weird thing now because now they're like 5 seconds, because otherwise you just skip through them. I know you probably all have YouTube Premium, but I'm too, you know, whatever to pay for that. So I still see them.
No way.
Oh, it's the best investment. So
yeah, so people who do it, it's like it changed my life. You know,
it changed my life.
Yeah, yeah. But gum ads did this weird thing where near the end they started to become more and more like body spray ads. Like that's what it was like. And the gum started to have crazy names, like, you know, I can't remember some of these, oh God. But they were all about like, take it so you can kiss and, you know, better things will happen.
Yeah, where's the making friends gum? That's what I want to know. We don't always have to jump into kissing.
Making friends after 45.
Yeah, the holding hands gum and being buddies. Buddy gum. Hey, buddy gum.
There you go. There you go. All
Gum
right.
for 45-year-olds, guys.
Just the tagline is just so like everyone's like, I'm out. Even 45-year-old guys reading that are like, that's definitely not something I want to admit.
I think it is.
Yeah.
Arj, sorry. Could I ask you, did you notice when you started doing that sort of priming effect, did it palpably change the interaction in the show quality by putting the audience, even if it was as a joke, which made them laugh, got big laughs in advance, but did you find it actually helped? Because what you're doing, even though it's a joke, is essentially priming people for the expectation and the perspective of comedy in front of an audience and putting them in that right frame of mind, which is actually hard to do. Like you said in the thing, if you come to the show with a lot of burdens and a lot of stress and tough work day and thinking about that stuff, if you're carrying that with you, it's difficult to release. And even though it was a joke, it did seem like it was an actual form of changing the audience dynamic. And I'm kind of wondering if you actually felt that when you started doing it.
Well, it's hard to say because I mean, first of all, that's about 6 or 7 specials ago, so it's hard to remember the exact particulars. And I haven't had a video before. I've had a couple shows with videos. The Joy Mountain one was really cool too, but that was a cult leader, so it was like basically an infomercial from my retreat at the top of that thing. I just always thought in simple terms, it's really nice to get a few laughs before you even hit the stage. You know, I never thought about, I'm familiar with the term priming because I've read a few chapters out of, I think it's Thinking Fast and Slow, because he talks about, he really goes over some of those priming studies, which I thought was interesting, but I thought it'd be easier to play a video than to get everyone to have a pencil in their mouth for 5 minutes, you know?
Oh gosh. You know what I love about this? So the priming studies and the pencil in the mouth one specifically, that's the one where they make you smile and then everything's funnier, that type of one. That was a very, very big deal for psychology. Like it was these pop culture things. And all those theories in the last like 10 years have been debunked, dethroned, a result of bad stats and stuff. And it's so funny because all of the best stories, the cute, funny things about, oh, do this and then your behavior will change, and do this and you'll convince people. Almost all that, incredibly, it seems, was wrong. It's been so sad. Like you teach this stuff for like 10 years and then you wake up one day, that's not true. You gotta take it out. But
was that specifically replication crisis and the fact that they couldn't reproduce them?
Yeah. So because of the methods we were using and the types of things scientists were doing, their study results were not reliable. So they would do the math in a way you shouldn't do the math. They would change their study to make it sound like they found something they were looking for all along when it was accidental. Lots of issues there.
Was the one where they crossed the scary bridge and then asked for the phone number? Was that one debunked?
Oh, you know what? I
love that one.
I have to double check. That one's a big one. I think so. I don't know if they've ever tried to repeat that study.
Art, just to let you know, Arj, this is the one where your the feelings that you have physically get transferred to a similar emotional state. So that if you know this feeling of butterflies or excitement or rush when you meet somebody you find very attractive, you often will flush. So they asked people crossing a suspension bridge. I think it was the Capilano-Bridge in Vancouver, actually, specifically, which is quite
the bridge,
terrifying.
Man, that's awesome.
Well, it's really scary. I've crossed it, and you're like, your heart's racing, and you're like this. And then they would ask for or was it a girl would offer a phone number?
I think it was they cross one of two bridges, and one's scary and arousing, like you're scared out of your mind, the other one isn't. And at the end, you interact with an interviewer. And the idea was people who crossed the scary bridge were disproportionately likely to call the interviewer later. And the tempting interpretation was you cross the scary bridge, you get aroused, and you transfer that arousal state, that meaning, that richness of it, to the person you're interacting with, and they seem fantastic, when really it was an overall state at the time. So I don't think they've repeated that one exactly. I'll have to double check.
Well, this got me thinking, if you don't mind, this could be Arj's next special, just a terrifying bridge on the way into the theater. And then, they're going to sense that they're aroused by you when you hit the stage.
A bridge to
Arj. Bridge to Arj?
A bridge to Hardy Har.
Oh, look at that. I love it.
Well, that's I was aware that I did hear that those studies were somewhat disproved, or at least in question. But when I read the book back then, anyway, it was not related to my idea. I was thinking very simplistically, it'd be cool to show something. And, you're always looking for a big opener, ideally, especially when I'm doing 1 hour shows. Although I do usually have an opening act that's 15 or 20, but at festivals, to be fair, like Melbourne Festival, which runs around 5 full weeks if you do the whole thing, same thing with Adelaide, 5 full weeks, you don't generally have an opener. So you come out, you only have a 1 hour slot, and you have to keep it pretty tight or people get angry. And so it was nice, especially at festivals, to have my little video to show up front. And, again, I'd look at it in simple terms. It warmed the audience up a little bit. Whether they did the actual deep breathing, probably some people did. In that one video, I say, breathe in, breathe out. Now repeat after. It probably did actually get people in a slightly more relaxed state. Meditation, one interpretation of it is just like you're just actually just relaxing your body and your mind. But it didn't hurt. It was good. It was good. It was nice to have that bonus opener for sure.
Does it help with your creativity?
Actually, I'm dying to ask Paul.
Okay.
This is completely changing the subject. It's
sure.
The whole
okay.
podcast. Have you listened to the telepathy tapes?
The telepathy tapes? No. Are these the one? I think I know what you're talking about, but I haven't. Help me out here, because jog my memory.
Severely autistic children. This is the basic idea, theme of it. There's the children that are kids that can't speak. They don't have the ability to speak.
So nonverbal. Okay.
Yeah, nonverbal. For a long time, people thought they were that they were dumb, and that was the problem. But they figured out ways to teach them to type, and they found out that they're pretty sharp, or just as sharp as anyone else. They just can't speak, so they're communicating with iPads.
Yeah, touchpad communication is a thing to a degree. Yeah, a lot of people with language difficulties. Yeah.
So that's how they're able to communicate. But the focus of the podcast is that apparently they can read their parents' minds to a T, and they can communicate with each other and from great distances, and they meet up telepathically and talk. And there's all these tests. If you listen to it, there's all these tests where they're saying, look, there's no way this kid could see the word we were thinking, and then the mom read it, and then the kid would type it out. It's basically either it's the biggest fraud in history, or it's the most incredible thing in history. You know what I mean? It's not. There's not much in between.
It's a simple binary. Yeah, it's either the most amazing things ever, or it's completely untrue.
Rather than
not much middle ground, but it's was not number 3 podcast in the U.S.
Yeah, after
really,
they were on Rogan, apparently they got really pumped up.
Wow. Okay, I wasn't aware of this recently. I've been sort of in a hole preparing for something else.
No, I just Googled it. I just Wikipedia'd it and was reading a little bit. But
we need that other technical person. It's like, okay, guys, this is
the
where
producer.
the link is.
Well, have a look and tell me what you think another time, or
definitely
when I come back
to do that.
Yeah.
Could I just?
Sorry, Pete.
There is sort of an interesting scientific sort of thing we could talk about there, which is the sort of, rather than telepathic, which is very difficult to talk to in a very scientifically rigorous sort of perspective, because it's hard to falsify certain aspects of it using sort of a controlled environment. Well, it's not hard to falsify. It's just hard to sort of allow it to be falsified. Yeah, because there's a pushback to allowing a sort of an experimental, a purely experimental situation, because it won't allow for the people generally won't participate in those situations if they're rigorously controlled.
And however, the sample's small to start with too.
Yeah.
So you're not likely to have
But there is something pretty interesting, and actually Professor Whissell did tell me about this, about how brain structure between people, a child and peers, seem to sort of have similar brainwave sort of functions, which is along the not specifically along the lines, but a similar sort of way that your friends, your family, your children will share like a similar type of brainwave.
There's a couple things to touch on here. So first, the point of remarkable abilities in people who are neurodivergent, that actually does happen in a minority of cases. It does happen. I think it's less than 10% or something, but it does happen. Like an extraordinary ability to do math, for example, or maybe an extraordinary ability to recognize certain details. I don't know. I'd have to, again, see what they're talking about. So that can happen. To the communication, this is an interesting thing. You might say it's overall impaired on the basis of language alone, but they found that people who are neurodivergent might actually communicate differently or perhaps better with other people who are the same way. So they may seems like they're resonating with each other, but they're speaking in some kind of language, nonverbal or otherwise, that maybe we don't pick up on as well. Maybe we make different assumptions.
Well, they're like in different towns.
Oh, they're actually far away. I thought it was just like, across.
I didn't know that.
Well, yeah, that's an important. Oh my God.
That's a tough one.
To the last one that Pete's talking about, this actually, I think there is a fair amount of data. The idea is people with similar experiences.
Down like a hot potato. All right, let's not worry about that.
It's instantly recognize how stupid my suggestion was, missing a key fact. Oh yeah, they're in different areas. Oh, all right. Well, moving on.
It's tough to sort of relate that to science. To be honest with you.
I don't know. That's why I'm so curious what you guys.
Yeah. That's why now I'm curious, because I hadn't heard about it until today. I did have a supervisor who studied this type of thing, and famously, everyone recognized him as eccentric. Like I would go there to conferences with my university on my badge at the time, and people were like, "Oh, do you know this guy? He studies remote viewing." And I was like, "What?"
It wasn't Professor Venkman, was it?
No. Wasn't big. That would have been cool. I'm pretty sure if the Ghostbusters were real, this dude would have been part of them. But to your last point, though, and actually this is a thing, if you look at people who are friends, their brain wiring is probably more similar than it otherwise would be. So are their genes, incidentally, and a lot of other things. But if you show them the same picture, their brain will light up in the same way. That this is like a predictor of friendship, like how they represent things in their brain. So you could predict someone's likelihood of being your friend on the basis of how they respond to things. When I say it that way, it doesn't sound surprising at all. It sounds like the most obvious thing ever. The fact you also see it in the brain is interesting, though.
So if they both chew buddy gum,
right?
They'll definitely
buddy gum.
45.
It makes our brains the same. Then we can hang out more. Oh, so I could actually do an MRI and find out if Arj is really my friend.
Oh. I imagine there'd be oh gosh. Well, anyone who, I don't think you have to go any further. If they agree to do an MRI for you, they're your friend. Don't even look at the result.
Oh, if they agree to do a podcast.
He's
and not only that, wake up early in the morning on the other side of the world to do it.
I know. Crack a 9:30.
Yeah, at their friend's house.
Yeah, I know. You all have a very different idea of morning than I do. So
Oh,
Oh my God.
comic morning versus academic morning are so different.
It's funny because when I was younger, not only do I feel I was marginally more exciting, but I did actually have insane hours. I used to go, I remember there's actually a recognized name for this pattern or behavior, but I would go to bed at 4 a.m. and wake up at 11. And that was like my thing. That was my rhythm. And the only cure for it, and I do not recommend this to anyone with this problem out there. I'm not a clinical psychologist. It's not a recommendation. The only thing that changed it was having a kid, because then I had to get up. That's the only thing. Because then if you don't get up, they will come into your room and they're like, they will. Yeah. So that was like my X factor there. But anyways.
Yeah, I mean, Arj and me probably have kids, but they don't affect us because we've never met them.
Oh, I have kids.
Let's see.
My kids are right there. There's one of them sleeping.
Oh, which one is that?
That's Frankie.
Oh, Frankie. So cute. So cute. They're big boys now.
They're big girls.
Big girl. I mean, Frankie's okay. Hey,
you can do that with cats. You can give them a different kind of name, and it's just okay. In fact, I have a friend.
She's a dog.
There you go.
Well,
so I'm wrong again.
Picture.
Yeah,
Come on.
It's been a good day. Good day. Scientific expertise coming in handy. I don't know about telepathy. I don't know dog or cat names.
Now I'm starting to.
You can't tell a dog from a cat. No, they could look like cats because they have big ears.
That'll be the clip for like for the debunking. You can't even tell the difference between a cat and a dog. You're supposed to say.
They're gonna go through my entire life and then find all these different problems, and that will be like really high at the list. Doesn't know animals.
Hey, are you still doing lucid dreaming?
Are you asking me or Paul?
You.
I'm really into it. I mean, okay. I haven't had one in a while, and I'm disappointed, but it takes a lot of effort to get to a point where for me anyway, some people do it naturally. Mm-hmm. My peak was during lockdowns, and I was using a method called finger-initiated lucid dream, where you set an alarm to go off throughout the night, or you try to, get lucky and figure out when you're in a REM state. And then an alarm goes off for like around 8 to 12 seconds, just enough to wake you up. And then it's got to go off automatically. And I had to buy a Galaxy phone because they don't have an app like that for the iPhone because they don't. Anyway, the politics of their software. Anyway, the alarm goes off on its own, and it wakes you up. It wakes you up, but the key is to not move. You just got to be. It's like you're basically trying to wake up as little as possible, enough to know that you're awake, and then you do a micro movement with your two fingers, like you're playing. They said like the tiniest piano, or like regardless of where your hand is. You just tap your fingers like really gently. And then you guess. You don't count because counting wakes your brain up too much. You guess. You just estimate 30 seconds after doing this for 30 seconds. And then, this is the best part. You do a reality check, which the one I was using was to squeeze my nostrils and breathe. Because in a dream, if you're dreaming, obviously you're going to just keep breathing, right? So what's incredible is the amount of times I did this, and then for some reason doing this keeps your brain awake while your body falls asleep. So when it works, it's the coolest thing because you go, okay, I would always think, it didn't work. I'd pull my hand up, feel my hand going, touching the blankets or whatever, come up here. And it's just like, holy shit, I'm breathing. I'm dreaming. I can't believe it. And then you realize you're actually in a dream, but you're completely lucid. And then I would jump out of bed and I would still be in my bedroom because my brain had accepted that I was in my awake. And then I would just jump out the window and it would be like a different scene every time. And I'd start doing some crazy shit, but it didn't last. I'd usually wake up pretty soon. I never got over the hump of being too excited and waking myself up. So I don't know if the longest one I had was a couple minutes. And a lot of them lasted only a handful of seconds, 20 seconds. Sometimes I'd get stuck floating on my ceiling and I couldn't kind of get out.
They do
all these
tend to
weird
be
things.
short. Yeah. I was going to say, though, and I always have to ask this question when people tell me they're doing that. What got you into trying that? Like, what was the end goal? Were you just curious, or because some people have very specific reasons for wanting to control their dreams? I'm wondering how you got there.
Oh, really? No. Was that the motive?
Well,
I don't want to. There's no judgment, but that's interesting.
No.
I want to basically. I've always thought drugs are pretty fun. You don't do them that often, but they're pretty cool, right? Like, but drugs have a lot of downside. You know, you take a drug, you might feel great, but then you might feel like dog shit after that. No offense, girls. You know, they're illegal sometimes. You don't know what's going to happen. They're unpredictable. You could have a bad trip, all this shit. But with dreaming, it's like the most powerful drug because, as you know, as I understand, your brain is reacting to the reality of your dream the same as it reacts to the reality of your waking life. You know, like if you see a tree in your dream, your brain is responding in such a way as you see a tree right now looking out the window. So it's very as real as a drug could have, far more real than a drug probably could ever be. I mean, it's what's not to love about it. I'm like, when I first learned that it was a thing, I was like, I'd already like ordering the books, you know, like
because there are a lot of induction techniques for that, and weirdly, I know what you just said. Some of them, and again, not to be tried at home. Some of them are drug based, actually.
Galantamine. I've got a couple bottles of it right here. Galantamine, it's a natural. It's a natural a supplement that is it's from a plant or something, and they prescribe it for people with Alzheimer's. What it does is
Go ahead. I was just agreeing.
It suppresses a chemical in your brain which makes you forgetful somehow. But this is a similar chemical or the same chemical. I think it starts with an A. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I think these are acetylcholinesterase. They interact with it in some way. I think that's it. So it's one of the.
Yeah, we get like amnesia when we're sleeping. That's why we don't remember our dreams very well. That's why we don't remember that. Like, why am I hanging out with my grandmother who's been dead for 20 years? That's why we don't go, what? That's why we don't realize we're dreaming every night, is because we're flooded with this chemical that makes us like not question and forgetful. Makes us quite forgetful. Galantamine suppresses that chemical, so you're more likely to go, oh, this is a dream, like just like that. And if people follow you don't take it before bed, you take it after about 5 hours of sleep, because you have more REMs after about 5 hours, and you take it. There's ways to do it. You know, you can read up on that. And that's legal. People can just order that drug from my website.
Unusual plug. It's like, would you like CDs? Gum for 45-years, drugs for lucid dreaming. We've got a whole product line. Like,
how much are you selling it for?
Oh my God.
Do you need to talk with your accountant?
Well,
he can't believe
the code.
No, that's really quite an interestingly complex like drug. Like, I'm reading about it right now.
I think is it an acetylcholinesterase inhibitor?
It's a culinary. It's got cholinergic functions, and it works with hydrolyzes acetylcholine.
Can I plug my new CD?
No.
Before the end of the show.
No. Sorry, we don't do that. Do you have if you have a scientific paper, you can plug that. You can plug your Google Scholar.
Oh, come on, Pete,
profile.
We go way back. I got a brand new CD. I'm really excited about it.
Is it brand new? Like how
brand new?
When did you tape it?
I didn't tape it. It's Bon Jovi. It's still in the wrapper.
That was perfect.
That was pretty. I watched the documentary
Irene
on them.
Loves Bon Jovi. Like, if she saw she would buy it right now, whatever your price.
Well, it's pretty expensive because there's only one, so it's like $50 or something. But
really,
it is still in the plastic. It's a brand new CD. So if anyone's interested in that, let me know. Hit me up.
I highly recommend the documentary that he put out last year. It's really, I didn't realize how deeply integrated.
Documentary?
Yeah, on his career. It talks about his relationship with Bruce Springsteen and starting out in New Jersey, and just the whole E Street Band. It's sort of where he first met them on these little clubs. I didn't know anything about these guys, and I didn't realize New Jersey was such a sort of a heart of rock and roll, I guess, is the music. But yeah, fascinating. And he got to start as working at a record company, and then he was so good looking, and he was a good singer, and he was working hard. The band formed around his talents more than anything else, which is kind of
I was blown away. I had no idea how much shitty music came out of New Jersey. It was a real eye opener.
Why? It seems there's no one who won't rip on New Jersey. Like New York, it's half and half, but you can make a New Jersey joke anywhere, probably even in New Jersey, and they'll be like, "Yeah."
Oh no, I wasn't ripping on New Jersey. I was more ripping on Bon Jovi. And I'm not really the biggest Bruce Springsteen fan either. Although I don't hate him, but you know what I mean. I found a lot of that music kind of bland, you know.
Well, yeah. Well,
what would be your style of music? Yeah, I'm curious. What is the type you listen to, if I can ask that?
I love my classic rock, which is a funny term because when it came out, it was just rock. So it's sort of a weird name for it. But I love my Led Zeppelin, my Pink Floyd, Hendrix.
Good stuff.
I love Black Sabbath, but I also love Radiohead. I think Radiohead is like, I feel like some of their later albums, they're like channeling music from like a dream realm. I don't know how they did that. So beautiful.
The first time I saw Radiohead was in a small club in Vancouver because they were recording it at Little Mountain Sound. And this was before they broke. And they were playing the Railway Club, which is like a club that has like 100 people in it. Wow. And I was there, and like Kevin McDonald from Kids in the Hall, and like some of these like local famous people there, like, you got to come see this. And I went, and it, just unbelievable. And like a month later is when they did the Conan O'Brien, when they did Creep, and they just sort of exploded after that. It was nuts. It's so good.
Yeah, I was going to say, because this sort of great, was. But, sorry, I'm not sure whose turn it is now.
I think we had a delay there, and because there's a delay. Yeah, well, he's on the other side of the world, and he's got like these slow Australian cables.
I was just going to say that this Radiohead was like a really, really big thing as I was finishing high school. And I didn't have enough money to go to see all the bands I wanted to. And it's not like you get a lot of opportunities in Northern Ontario. And by the time I was ready and able, every band I followed had broken up or just like wasn't touring anymore. I'm like, well, this is great. I have, nothing to spend this money on. A lot of them, but that would have been, that was like our music too. I also I had this big thing where I was listening to music. I was like 15 or 20 years old as well. So my brother was into metal, so I was too. But that's just like totally dead now. There's not, a very large community for that, sadly.
Metal?
Metal, yeah, it's not huge. It was maybe not in the 80s.
But there's still a very loyal metal fan base out there, I'm sure. I mean,
Norway.
There's all these scenes. You know what it's like? There's all these scenes that you don't know about, but a guy will come through and he'll play to 1,000, 2,000 people. It happens in comedy too. You're like, the fuck is this guy? And he's just like filling up a 2,000 seater. There's all these niche fan bases out there, and I'm sure metal. I mean, there's devout metal people all over the world.
You're probably right about that. I think I was just more trying to say that I can remember it was very, very big thing. Like you couldn't not know about it. But I always feel so embarrassed when I see a really good comedian or hear a really good band. It's like, how have I not heard about them? How are they not huge? It's just, there's a sadness there that they tell you good talent and everything gets recognized. I don't know if it does all the time. Certainly not soon enough. Yeah.
No, I don't think it naturally gets discovered. I think you have to have a whole bunch of things coming together.
Yeah.
So Arj, I want to get back to sort of your writing style, if you don't mind a little bit, because you play sort of a silly, you dumb yourself down for your character a little bit in your comedy, and that allows you sort of the freedom to sort of overcommit to the perspective that you're that's unique to you. Get closer to the camera so you can really hear what I'm saying. Do you have like a methodology of the way that you engage? I know you talk about you writing about what you're experiencing at the time. Let's say you're doing yoga, or you're doing, whatever, that sort of plays into it. But do you actually challenge yourself to sort of to push your boundaries of your perspective? Do you have a style of that, or is it something that you're thinking about? Do you work in reverse, like you look for the outcome and then work backwards? Like, I'm just kind of curious, like what your approach is, because you have such a whimsical and unique sort of outside of the box, I hate using that term, but style of comedy that's just it's I'd love to know what your process is a little bit.
Yeah, I don't really have a process, because if I did, I wouldn't. I mean, I find writing material, coming out with some good ideas, is very challenging, probably the hardest part. Once I have a good idea, workshopping it's fun, and playing with it and adding some tags or whatever. But when I come up with a seed of a good joke for me, has also become harder as I've become more selective and a little more critical of, like, well, that's a little bit, that's not really very original, or that's, there might be a dozen reasons why I won't go with an idea. But I try to write every day, but actually I'm in a pretty bad dry spell at the moment, and I don't know. Sometimes I think I don't do enough new things to get ideas, because I have a pretty routine lifestyle. Like, I get up, I walk my dogs, I do the same things. I go to the gym. I have some hobbies, play music. I love playing music and stuff, and building something in the garage here and there, and hang out with friends. But I don't know, like, after all these years now, 35 goddamn years of doing comedy,
Jesus,
I don't really feel like I know. I don't really have any formula for writing or coming up with a good idea. It actually has to kind of, the only thing I can do is try to put my ass in front of a piece of paper with a pen. And this actually is one of my theories of writing, is you make yourself write, because not because you're going to necessarily sit there in the kitchen, and write anything that's that great. But then what you've done is you've activated the joke dar part of your brain, which is now scanning for premises for the rest of the day. So I felt like if I've put in 20 minutes or 30 minutes of trying to write, I feel like I'm more likely for a joke to just pop into my head when I'm getting out of an Uber or walking into the club, like, oh, wait a second, why don't I do that? And so most of my best ideas just kind of showed up, but I do think that you can give yourself a better odds of that if you're thinking in joke, and if you're looking for premises, if your mind is primed to write, to write a premise or an idea. And I think when I first started comedy, I'd come home from a gig, and I just I couldn't turn it off. I was just like filling up pages with ideas. Also, I didn't know what was, I didn't have any criteria for what I would do. So I'm like, yeah, I'll do an impression of Jim Morrison ordering spaghetti. That's funny. I'd like, and I wouldn't do that now. I should, maybe. It wasn't that bad of a bit, but
now I really want to hear that is the thing. Yeah.
But then after 15, 20 years, it's like, fuck, I'm out, I want to go out and party. I'm going to have a good time. And I kind of got out of the habit of, I was like, yeah, I feel like I'm a comedian now. I'm doing this thing, and it's fine. But, I don't want to go and write jokes now. I want to go hang out or whatever, relax, go to sleep, whatever. So so after the excitement of being a comedian wore off, which I think is inevitable to some degree, then it became a thing where, no, you actually have to try to write, which was a big shift. And so then there was a bunch of years where I was pretty lazy, but luckily I would think of enough stuff to come up with a new hour every couple of years or so. But now I'm in a stage of like trying to write every day. It doesn't mean I'm writing jokes every day, but I'm trying. And I sometimes just write the dumbest stuff. I can't even believe it. But I just think it's almost like an act of faith, is to sit there and try to write something and then hope that. Also, the other idea that I believe in is a bad idea can lead to a good idea. So you write something that's shit, but then later you think, well, that's shit, I'm not going to use that. But what about that? And then you get a good idea that works. Whereas you wouldn't have gotten that good idea if you hadn't come up with the ordinary idea or the really, really mundane stuff. So just trying to write is the only thing I could say after 35 years. Just try.
Do you ever worry that maybe taking an off-label Alzheimer's drug is what's causing your writer's block?
Oh my god.
Actually, I don't use galantamine very often.
Yeah. It was the finger method, I believe, was the one we got.
I got a lot of good lucid dreaming ideas. You go in the lucid dreaming subreddit. There's like a couple 100,000 people on that one.
Yeah,
they've got some great mega threads that tell you all the different techniques. So you got the wild technique, you got the mild technique. That's famous. Mild to wild.
The dialed, the brain stimulation as well. Some of the stuff, you can afford and use at home, like recorders for your brain as well. A lot of startup companies love designing things like this because people are like, "Oh my god, I can measure my own brain and stuff."
Yeah, I don't know if any of those really work, or I've never
delta
tried
waves that do the REM stage.
Well, delta is like, so going over the waves would be like, do you have 45 minutes and this would put you to sleep, and that might give you a lucid dream, but the idea is there are different patterns of brain activity in the different states of consciousness. That's sort of part of what we think characterizes one. And the awake, aroused, and focused one that in theory we're all in now, your higher frequency, and deep sleep, like when you're out, that would be delta, that would be the slowest. If you're looking at dreams, very often, I think even lucid dreams should be in this category, it's actually fast activity, really fast, and actually really close to what would be in the waking state. It's more similar to the waking state in that sense. That's a really interesting thing about it. But yeah, I don't know how well the devices work, and in fact, I wouldn't be surprised if they had problems. But they will get better over time, I think, is the thing. Probably not good enough to do a study, but enough that someone would enjoy having fun with them for an evening or two. But that's connected to a greater thing. Like some people are really obsessed with, like, I think it's called like biofeedback, just like measuring yourself and getting input on. It's like, oh, what's my metabolism like? What's it, noon or something? Does that? There's lots of tools for this now.
Whenever I'm stressed, I look at my heartbeat and I just sort of try to like make it go down. Sort of like that's like a rudimentary form of biofeedback. I have a question about dreams, though. I hope this is okay to ask. And I was thinking about this because psychology as a whole has had a weird relationship with dreams because of Freud, and Freud sort of placing a little bit more importance than possibly they actually have on them. So is there sort of an idea that like a leading concept for the purpose of dreams? Is it reconsolidation of information and memory?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So there are two separate things to disentangle here. You could have a really long and I think very vigorous debate as to what sleep's for. Like we still actually don't 100% know. And then you could have a similarly long one just about dreaming as to what it's for. There's a sort of danger, I think, in assuming everything we do is functional and useful. Like every part of the human experience is there for a reason and has a function. But just out of my zone. But for dreaming, they have like 3 ideas and they haven't really settled on one. And I got to say, neuroscientists have the worst one in the sense that it ruins everyone's day. So the Freudian one's the one everyone knows. It's like kind of like dreaming basically has this point where subconscious desires will emerge. The things you suppress during the day will sort of come out when you're asleep, but they don't come out as they are. They'll come out in the form of symbols that you have to interpret. This is, plays into the fact people have a dream. It's like, what did that mean? And they think about what the symbolism was. That's the Freudian theory, the one that people really love. And then you have other theories like they have this theory that dreams are like a way of simulating the world and preparing for it. So you imagine circumstances that may happen to you and then get ready for them when you're awake. Like you imagine someone dying. It's like, oh my God, we're mortal. I don't have forever. And then you change your life thereafter. And the last theory, the neuroscience one, this is my discipline here, okay? They're like, dreams have no special meaning and serve no purpose. They're just this accidental result of your cortex is getting bombarded with stimulation when you're asleep. And what your brain is actually supposed to do at all times is weave a narrative. Whatever is going on, it weaves a narrative so that there's a reality that you have. And basically, it's like taking all these disjointed patterns and desperately trying to make a story. My analogy for this is like if you went into your fridge and tries to use every single leftover to make a single dish, and would be the worst and strangest dish ever. That's sort of like what the brain is doing. It gets bombarded, all these weird random memories get active, and then they're all mixed into a narrative, the brain's desperate attempt to make sense of it. And there's not really a winner there. I could come up with an argument to all of those, but I think they are representative of internal states, and I do think certain ones can have meaning. Like people dream about things that have meaning to them. So I definitely think there's some weight to the first two. And the fact people repeatedly dream about things that are important suggests it's not random activity and whatever. But we don't know yet. Like that's not settled at all. Yeah.
Well, it's kind of weird that if Arj is doing something like lucid dreaming where he's directing the dream, doesn't that sort of poke some holes in the fact that it's representative, or because if he's directing it,
I'm not an expert lucid dreamer. I just want to be clear about that. I'm not like a very much occasional hobbyist level. There are people that got really good at it. Yeah. I started to feel like I was cracking it, and then I sort of crumbled. But the one thing I'll say is that I was putting a lot of effort into it, like writing my dream down. Everyone says keep a dream journal. Yeah. Whether or not you can prove that helps, I don't know. But almost every lucid dreaming instructor or expert says you got to do a dream journal. But one thing, I think that helped is I'd make a, goal setting, that whole idea. Mm-hmm. So I'd say, okay, and within the next week, I'm going to remember on average 3 dreams a day, and I'm going to have at least 1 lucid dream. And I would keep a score every day.
My gosh.
And so that told my subconscious, like, we got to get this done, Wow. For whatever reason, goal setting works. It's been, I believe that's settled that it can help people achieve things, unless it's just a conjecture. But I think it's a real thing, right? Goal setting?
Yeah. I think having a plan in advance actually is a very good way to do things, to have that documentation. So the size of the effect may vary from person to person, but yeah, I don't think you could dispute that.
As to the other lucid dreaming.
Yeah, as to the other thing, like the interesting thing about dreams overall, at least by some analysis, is if you look at your average person's dreams, a lot of them are weird or negative or strange. But lucid dreams are not. Most people enjoy lucid dreaming. I think disproportionately the response is positive. In theory, if you're in control, that would be the case. Like, why would you give yourself a nightmare sort of thing if you're having one of those dreams where you're in control?
Well, a nightmare's not as scary if you know it's a dream. So what happened is, for some people that had recurring nightmares that were able to achieve lucidity, they just said, I'm not afraid of this monster anymore. Because in a famous story in one of the books, the guy said that this girl was being attacked by a shark or something, and then she realized she was lucid, and she ended up riding the shark around, like going for a ride on it. So there's stories like that. Yeah. Which, as with all dream stories, they're stories. There's no way to verify them, but that's pretty amazing. It's super fun, yeah, and they are beautiful. Like mostly, I tend to fly. It's true. I want the two things people want to try to do most is flying and sex. Let's be honest. That's like supposedly that's an actual stat, and I'm guilty. I've tried both those things, but flying. Usually, when I know I'm dreaming, I go wee, and I just jump in the air and start flying, and I don't even. It's almost an automatic reaction to realizing I'm dreaming. Yeah, and I've had some great flying ones where I'm like flying around and I'm like, yeah, but then you get too excited, you wake up. But I've seen beautiful colors. I've tasted things.
You can taste in your dreams?
I've done that, yeah. I've
Seriously?
Tasted all your senses.
That's how I always know I'm not dreaming, is that the food doesn't have any taste.
No, you can taste. I've tasted sweet taste in my dream. Wow. I believe I've smelled, but I can't say for sure. But I've definitely remembered eating something that was kind of sweet. I think it was like a grasshopper. I took a bite of it or something. I don't remember. But yeah, I woke up and wrote, I got to taste something in my dream. Definitely felt pain. Who knows? That could be like a cramp in your hand in IRL, that's causing that. But it definitely is incredible. And, I'm not the first guy to say this, but it's a big percentage of your life is spent dreaming. And so with lucid dreaming, I feel like you're trying to experience it more. But But I lately haven't been putting the work in, and I'm not getting the results.
It's just sad in a way how life has to work. It's like we're putting work into a part of sleep now. Like that used to be the time we'd take off. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. What? Can't you just like close your eyes? Isn't that? No, that's not how it works for me.
Well, that's it. I love sleeping. I just love. I enjoy my non-lucid dreams a lot too. You know, I remembered 2 pretty well last night, but I keep a little recorder next to my bed, which I'd almost want to give the recorder a plug. It's the best device because it's just a 1 click, and it's recording, and then it'll go off once you turn it off. It turns off because you don't want to fuss around with your iPhone and bright lights and all this bullshit in the middle of the night. But I can literally just go click. I was driving a big shoe around, and then I got attacked by a snake or whatever, and then a click and put it down. But the dreams go like that. You know, by noon the next day, you've forgotten 80% of your dreams. So if you're not recording them, they're gone.
Yeah, you most people lose almost all of them. Even if it's a dream, the interesting thing is even if they found it really, really meaningful at the time, it's like, that was amazing. You woke up like, well, what could that mean? And by the time you went to the bathroom to brush your teeth, it's gone. Like it's even shorter than that.
Why is that? Is that because it's not like
Well, I think Arj hit on part of the reason why, certainly, is like the physiology when you're asleep is not the physiology for memory storage. Additionally, you can't really pay attention to things in the way you can when you're asleep. Like they just sort of passively happen to you, and you don't rehearse them in the same way. Additionally,
dreams are stored in your pee.
Well, that's the best theory. I should put that in my lecture. It's like
you go pee, it's
what?
Gone. Yeah.
I mean, is that a coincidence? That's all I'm saying. Like,
correlation. Yeah, these two things go together. Why can't we ask questions anymore? We used to be able to ask questions. Like, let's go down that route. Yeah.
You know what always terrified me in the aspect of sleep, though, just to take this the opposite direction really quickly, because I find this. I don't know if you've ever heard of this, Arj, but there's an absolutely terrifying disease caused by prions that people are stopped from sleeping altogether, and there's no cure for it, and they all die. And it's like the most freaky sort of like apparently you can't keep, you end up dying like within a couple months once it starts its onset. And it's a hereditary prion, which is a malformed protein. It's not a virus or a bacteria. The protein in the brain somehow misforms, prevents people from ever accessing a full sleep state, and they die. And
I was aware. I didn't know that disease, but is that similar to mad cow? Because that's something with prions, as I recall.
Yeah, well, not similar, but they're the same prion source. Yeah.
But I have heard that if you don't sleep, you'll die. And I think one torture back in the day was to cut people's eyelids off and then prevent them from ever going to sleep.
God. This should be the ending right here. It's just like make everything go to black, and everyone's like, "What happened to them?" Well, because we just went so dark so quickly.
I wanted to ask you, like, why would preventing sleep lead to a physiological ceasing of being? Like, why? Like you said, we're not 100% sure why sleep takes place. But what?
So just to qualify that a bit. It's not that we have one reason. We have a lot of reasons. We just don't know which one's most important, the priority. So. One thinking was that sleep's like this period of maintenance. Like just as you shut down a building, the custodial staff will come in, clean up, reorganize. You may need to make new materials, and you may need to disassemble and remove other things. So there's all these metabolic processes in building that all has happened when you're asleep, or best happens when you're asleep. And without that period, you can't clear out the brain, you can't rebuild the brain, you can't whatever. And damage builds up over time, supplies run out, if you will. I'm giving a lot of analogies here. Another one is that sleep is this period for learning and memory. Sleep is this period for forming associations, so you're not able to store information anymore. Sleep's also a period of energy conservation as well. And in that when you're asleep, you're burning less fuel, basically. So if resources were short, being asleep at night is very important, because otherwise you're paying a lot of money to be awake at a time.
The brain uses a remarkable amount of energy.
Yeah, it's a big energy hog.
Yeah.
Sleep is when you burn off your extra boners.
Oh, man. Boners and pee? Those are the things that come out of...
No. This is
That's
good.
what I'm here for, folks.
Yeah.
We've reached out to Australia to get some boners and pee influence. Oh,
sorry.
Oh my god. No, that's perfect. It's perfect.
Great. It's great.
Yeah,
no, it's not great. But
it's no Jim Morrison eating spaghetti. Like what was that?
That sounds like a really good sort of prompt for a convoluted neural network.
Sounds like one of those SNL skits that you're like, oh, brave attempt.
So, Arj, what do you got planned other than is your writing block blocking you from? You're still getting out there, right? You're still doing shows.
Oh, that's one of my favorite things is now. Do you know? This is not. I don't know how it relates to anything, but
it doesn't have to.
Today is exactly a year since I had an alcoholic drink.
Congratulations!
I just decided to take a break, because I'd spent all my adult life drinking frequently. Maybe a few a week on average, sometimes big nights, and it wasn't because I was like, oh, my life's out of control, but I just thought, I'm kind of bored of this. It's probably not that great for me, and I don't like even the occasional hangover. It's not pleasant. And so I just took a week off, and then that turned into a year. So I would leave it at that. But the flip side of that is like, I realized now that, I missed the fun of getting buzzed and stuff. So I've sort of replaced it by doing sets. So wherever I am, I'm just out trying to get on stage and mess around, try my new jokes out. And so I go out and do sets. In fact, I'm going to try to drop in on one tonight that the guy doesn't know yet that I'm going to try to come down, but I'm going to look him up and ask if I can come down because fortunately, because I have a good reputation out in Australia, a lot of shows will put me on, which is I do take advantage of that. And why not? It's really fun.
You bring up something that's really quite interesting that it's hard to sort of relate to people that don't perform or have an experience on stage. There's a rush, an endorphin, like a phenomenological experience from the gratification of doing stand-up that, of course there's a positive learning thing where we're rewarded from it, but it's a huge rush and it lasts like after a show, you can't fall asleep. Like you can't, you're wired for a while and you feel this endorphins, unless it's a bad show, then you're in pain and that lasts for a long time, probably longer. But the state that you're in from stand-up it really does satisfy something as powerful as like the void of drinking or like whatever sort of rush you might have gotten from other drugs. It's very similar.
Yeah, it's like I did this one thing where I said the audience, I said, "You're my drug," and then I go, and I sniff the audience. Like I'm doing a line of audience. I go, "Oh shit!" I go, "Damn, that's a good audience."
That's good. That's good.
You're so silly.
It's a dumb one. I don't think I'll keep it for very long, but
keep that. That's my.
It gives you.
That's your thing.
It gives you a beautiful. Yeah, when you have a fun set, it's not after all these years. I'm not like, ooh, I can't believe it. Like I don't have that issue with not sleeping. Really, I don't get such a rush that I'm like all buzzed and I'm like I get, But it's just a nice feeling. But I'm more like like a nice glass of wine. I'm like enjoying it. When I'm on stage, I'm like, this is nice. I'm doing my jokes. I'm enjoying this audience. What a fun job. And it's more like I've embraced what a actually really fun thing to do stand-up is. And so but it's also, like you said, it is a buzz, but it's not like woo, but it's not like a fucking crazy, insane buzz, but it's like just wow, this is really nice. I would compare it more to like an enjoyable glass of wine,
but it's deeply socially satisfying too. Like it fills a void.
Social period.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm fucking sitting home like I work on the weekends mostly. That's my bread and butter gigs. We go out and go on tour. But then during the week when things are quiet and, I'm in between relationships right now and it just gets me out. And, I see some of the other comics who I know and I'm, you're part of a social group. I'm sure someone could explain why that's an important thing to feel like you're part of a group or something, like a tribe, some evolutionary shit. And, but it's just a great thing. So absolutely. And one of my gags is that, I'm addictive. So I stopped drinking a year ago now it's a year later, and I literally cannot stop not drinking. And so I've reversed the whole. I'm a non-alcoholic, and there's all these gags, but it's a very formulaic joke. So at the end, I go, I didn't write that. ChatGPT wrote that for me, and I get another little laugh. But you know, I have more time for jokes that aren't that great now, because I'm like, I went through a phase where like every joke has to be like a great joke, or you kid yourself.
Really?
But now
you used
I'm like,
to have that face?
Now I'm like, who cares if it's a fucking kind of a dumb joke or an easy joke?
Your dumb jokes are my favorite in the world. I say frozen yoga instead of like at least twice a week ever since I've heard that joke.
Well, everything's so negative, Pete. I mean, I went to see this movie Nosferatu, and the guy's going around with a bunch of rats. Everywhere he goes, there's a shitload of rats, and then he's like drinking people's blood. It's like Nosferatu. Like, I don't need that negativity. Where's Yesferatu? I want to see that movie. What about a guy? Oh, who refilled all the plasma? Oh, I guess Yesferatu must have been here. That would explain why those guinea pigs are in the children's section or whatever. I haven't really worked that one out yet.
No, it's workshopping it. I like it. It starts with something, and I was going to say,
that's a dumb joke. That's not going to ever be a great joke, but it's fun to say.
As someone who listens, I only listen, obviously. I actually really like it when there's a dumb joke or two. Maybe I'm wrong about this, because I laugh much harder at the ones that come after. Like the dumb one is sort of this mislead, and you're like, yeah, that's cute. And then you just get slammed. Like it's a really good feeling when you get that surprise there. Plus the dumb ones are the ones I can repeat at work and with friends and stuff. The smart ones are always kind of edgy, and you don't want to offend anyone, of course. So yeah, it's like, oh, that was funny, but that's private. The stupid ones you can use anywhere, and people are like, did you write that? And you're like, no, but you can do that. So
by the way,
there's a thing to that. Yeah.
I think I would be remiss to not say before we end, because I know we're going to wrap up pretty soon. It's great to meet you, Paul. And
it's great to meet you too,
Pete. I'm a big fan of you too, Pete. I really enjoy your bits. No, I think you have some of the best bits. I quote your bits.
You've never quoted one of my bits in your life.
Yeah. I like the bit where you're like, where you're eating a banana at the gym because people aren't looking at you and stuff. Like, that's a classic. The one about parallel parking. I mean, but your bits are like really smart. A lot of them. And I know you throw in a dumb joke too, but you're a terrific stand-up, and I didn't want you to think that the admiration goes both ways.
Oh, that's hardly necessary, and I'm a far better student than I am a comic, I think. Right, Professor?
Well, see, the interesting thing is, I don't know how good of a comic you are.
Yeah, thank God. Right?
Yeah. One thing, it was when I got to know you, I thought you, again, this is how I met him. He would always sit at the front of the class, and I'm just like, okay, this guy's here for kicks. He's like a software developer taking school as a joke. That was my first guess, and I wasn't far off. But after you said you were a comedian, on purpose, I didn't listen to your stuff until you were done taking my classes, which took like 3 or 4 years. So I'm just like, I'm wondering how good this is. And recently, of course, I've had the opportunity.
Oh no,
yeah, this is good stuff.
Don't.
But the
I don't
issue
even tell
here
my
is
family where.
Yeah, I was just going to say, here's Pete's problem is he was a really, really good student. It's not that he wasn't an amazing comic, but if you knew what kind of student he was, you'd be like, oh, this is actually pretty close. It's more that thing.
My grades are good reason for me to quit comedy.
Our comics, what are comics if not students of life?
Yeah.
That's it. That's the line. You got it. Thank you. Hey, Arj, during the pandemic, talking to you, the brief times that we even got together were some of the highlights, and you're such a joy of silly and fun and curiosity. Like, just even you bringing up like the autistic telepathic bullshit that you brought up earlier, that's just wonderful. Like, you have such a curious, engaging perspective on life.
You guys haven't even listened to it yet before you've already debunked it.
I'm gonna wait for the amazing Randy to take a look
first. I
first.
like the idea, and now I have to. Now I'm just like, okay, why don't I know about this?
But
and there's Bon Jovi as well.
Yeah. Like
I just wanted to remind people once again, a quick plug that I do have a new CD, so hit me up.
But yeah, your interest, your curiosity is it's inspiring, and it's partially one of the inspiring reasons for me to go to school is like every time I talk to you, you had something really, really interesting that you're obsessively learning about, whether it was UFOs, whether it was lucid dreaming, whether it was whatever your interest takes you, you get into it. And I love that. I love that type of interest. And I thank you for sharing that with me in my life. And it's great, so, okay.
My pleasure.
Buddy Gum. Thank you, Dr. Paul, for joining us.
Absolutely. It's been a great pleasure.
Thank you.
And I thank you all for joining us here on The Slow Learner. That's Arj Barker. I don't know if he's going to be dropping into a club near you if you're in Australia. And thanks for tuning in. And as always, if you have any feedback or interest or things you liked, things you hated, please email us. Let us know. We're trying to improve, and we love hearing any feedback.
Okay,
so thank you.
What's the email?
It'll be underneath, or we'll put it in the thing. Can
I just tell you now what I hated?